The sun was high over Yarrow 3, a quiet farming planet far from the busy cities of space. The ground was dry. The wind was hot. Jack Harper, a human farmer, stood near his small water tank, wiping sweat from his forehead. His fields of grain were not growing well this season. Still, he smiled. Jack loved quiet work and wide skies. His farm was far from anyone else, and that's how he liked it. Suddenly, something moved at the edge of the field. Jack narrowed his eyes. 3 strange figures were walking slowly across the dusty land. They looked tired, almost falling with. Each step, their skin was pale blue. Their arms were long and thin. One was very small, maybe a child. Jack knew at once they were not human. Aliens, he whispered to himself. He had seen pictures on the news but never met one. Yarrow 3 was peaceful, and aliens rarely came this far. Jack watched for a moment. The tall one stumbled. The small one fell to the ground. He dropped his tools and ran. "Hey, are you all right?" Jack called out, raising his hands to show he had no weapons. The tall alien looked at him, breathing hard. It didn't speak. Its large black eyes blinked slowly. Jack stepped closer and saw how dry their skin looked, like it needed water badly. He pointed toward his house and said gently, "Come, water, shelter." The aliens looked at each other, unsure. But when Jack held out a bottle of clean water and opened it in front of them, their eyes widened. The middle-sized alien took the bottle carefully. It sniffed, then drank fast. Jack gave more water to the others. Even the small one sat up and drank. Slowly. They stood and followed Jack toward the farmhouse. Jack led them to his cool storage shed. It wasn't big, but it had shade and fans. He brought out blankets, a light, and more water. He placed fruit and bread on a small table. The aliens sat quietly, watching him, still unsure. "I don't know what you eat, but this is all I got," Jack said, placing food near them. They looked at the fruit and sniffed again. The tall one took a bite. It smiled. Jack laughed. "Good, you like apples. That's a start." The small alien looked at Jack with wide eyes. It pointed at his boots, then at the ground. Jack knelt down and smiled. "Yeah, it's hot." "Burns." "Your feet, huh?" He went inside and came back with 3 pairs of soft old socks. The aliens took them slowly, watching Jack closely, as if trying to understand his heart. Jack just nodded and said, "It's okay, I won't hurt you." Night, the stars came out bright above the silent fields. Jack sat on his porch and looked up. He wondered where the aliens came from. Why were they walking alone through a human farm zone? Were they lost? Hiding? He didn't ask. He didn't push them. He just gave them a place to rest. At midnight, Jack saw something strange in the sky. Small lights, red and blue, moving too fast for normal ships. They circled above, then vanished. Jack frowned. "That's not local patrol." He walked to the shed. The aliens were asleep, wrapped in blankets. The small one made a soft sound like a sigh. Jack checked to make sure the fan was running, and the door was locked from the inside, but not in a way to trap them. Just to keep others out. He sat outside the shed for a while, holding his old flashlight like a guard dog. Nothing happened. In the morning, the sun rose fast and hot. Jack made tea and cooked eggs. He brought the food to the shed. The aliens were already awake. They stood in a group, looking around like they were trying to figure out where they were. Jack gave them breakfast. They ate slowly, watching him. After the meal, the tall one took a stick and started drawing in the dust. It made a shape like a star, then a circle, then an arrow pointing away. Jack watched. "You're trying to tell me something, huh?" The alien drew 3 dots and then an X. "You were 3. And left behind?" Jack guessed. The alien touched the X and then touched its chest. The small one looked sad. Jack nodded slowly. "You were lost. Or left behind on accident." He stood and pointed at his chest. "Jack?" Then he pointed to each alien, hoping they would say their names. The tall one said, "Ellen." The middle one. "Cree," the small one. "Vo." Jack smiled wide. "Nice to meet you, Ellen." "Cree, Vo." They smiled back, small but real. Later that day, Jack heard a soft beep from his old radio. It had not worked for weeks, but now it flashed a message. To Harper. JACK report to regional station. Do not bring any others urgent. Jack's smile faded. He looked at the shed where the three aliens were playing with the garden. Hose. He folded the message and put it in his pocket. The next morning, Jack woke up earlier than usual. The sky was still pink, and the wind was soft. But something heavy pressed on his chest, not a weight, but a worry. The message from the radio was still in his pocket. Report to Regional Station, do not bring any others. He didn't tell the aliens. They were still in the shed, playing with water from the hose. The small one, Vo, had made a small pile of wet sand and was shaping it into a dome. Cree was fixing the socks Jack had given them, using thin blue threads from their own clothes. Ellen stood by the door, watching the horizon. Jack walked over with a tray of warm toast and fruit. Morning, he said. Ellen gave a nod. Cree smiled. Vo ran over and hugged his leg. Jack chuckled and gave Vo a piece of fruit. They ate quietly. Jack sat near them and asked softly, "Why were you walking across my field, huh?" "No ship, no tools, just the three of you. Were you escaping something?" Ellen didn't answer right away. Then it knelt down and drew in the dirt again. This time, Ellen drew a large circle of planet, maybe, and a triangle above it. Then it made a small line with 3 dots walking away from the shape. Jack frowned. "So, you left something important?" Ellen nodded and touched its chest. Then Cree added a new drawing, a small curved ship with smoke coming from one side. Jack leaned forward. "Crash? You crashed?" Cree nodded. Jack felt his stomach twist. "You weren't just walking through, you were lost after a crash." Vo looked up, eyes wide and sad. Jack sighed and leaned back. "Okay, I get it. You didn't mean to be here. You didn't come to harm anyone? You needed help?" "That's all." Ellen made a sign with its 3 fingers touching its chest and then pointed to Jack, a sign of thanks. Jack smiled. "You're welcome." Later in the afternoon, Jack worked in the fields. He needed to keep things normal. He didn't know who might be watching. While working, he thought about the message again. Why now? Why just him? Did someone report the aliens? Or were the drones already tracking them? That night, Jack sat in his old chair with a map. He marked the route to the regional station. It was about 2 hours away by truck. He folded the map and stared at the stars. He whispered to himself, "I just gave water, just shelter." Early the next morning, Jack told the aliens he needed to go to town. "Just for a day," he said. Vo looked worried. Cree tilted its head. Ellen stepped forward and placed a hand on Jack's shoulder. "I'll be back before sunset," Jack promised. He left them with food, water, and batteries for the fans. He even set up a little solar panel so they could charge anything they had. Then he climbed into his old truck and drove away. Dust rising behind him, the regional station was clean and cold. Tall metal buildings, glass doors, and blinking screens. It was nothing like the warm fields of Jack's farm. A uniformed human officer met him at the gate. "Jack Harper? That's me. Follow me. You've been requested for direct appearance. Not arrested, right?" Jack tried to joke. The officer did not smile. "No, sir, just requested." Jack followed him into a large room with a high ceiling. In the middle sat a tall alien figure with long green robes and a calm face. Its eyes were large and glowing softly. "I am Judge Lurajan," the alien said in a smooth voice. "Please sit." Jack sat slowly. "Am I in trouble?" Lurajan looked at a screen. Images of Jack's farm appeared, his field, his water tank, and finally, "The aliens. You gave shelter to 3 undocumented beings," the judge said. Jack nodded. "Yes, they were tired, thirsty, and lost. I gave them food, water, and a place to sleep. That's not illegal, is it?" "It depends," Lurajan replied. "Do you know who they are?" Jack shook his head. "No, but I know what they aren't. They aren't violent. They aren't dangerous. They didn't break into my house or hurt my animals. They didn't even ask for help. I offered it." The judge paused. "Do you know where they came from?" "They showed me signs," Jack said. "I think they crashed. They were just walking in the heat. One of them is a child." Lurajan leaned back. "Those 3 beings may have escaped from a restricted science zone. If so, they should be in quarantine." Jack frowned. "Quarantine?" They were starving. They were dry as bones. I gave them water. That's all. The judge looked at him carefully. Why did you help them? Jack didn't hesitate. Because that's what we do. At least it's what I do. Lurajan looked at the screen again. Then she looked back at Jack. Your words will be recorded. For now, return home. But stay ready. We may call you again. Jack nodded slowly. All right. He stood and walked out of the building. His hands were in his pockets and his heart was heavy. On the way back, Jack drove fast. The sun was setting and his mind was full of thoughts. Who were the aliens, really? Why were they in a science zone? And what would happen to them now? When he reached the farm, he saw Vo waiting near the shed. The little alien ran to the truck as Jack stopped and hugged him tightly. Jack knelt down and said softly, I'm here. I kept my promise. Cree and Ellen stepped out of the shed. They looked at him with quiet eyes, not scared, not angry, just waiting. Jack looked at them all and whispered, Something's going to change. I don't know what yet. Jack didn't sleep much that night. He kept turning in bed, listening to the wind outside and thinking about the judge. The words kept repeating in his head. They may have escaped from a restricted science zone, but those aliens didn't. Looked dangerous. They looked lost. At sunrise, Jack made tea and walked outside. He found Vo sleeping under a warm blanket beside the garden hose. Cree was awake, carefully folding the extra clothes Jack had given them. Ellen stood facing the sky, eyes closed, as if listening to something Jack could not hear. He walked up and gave them all some fresh bread and warm milk. Something's happening, Jack said quietly. Something big. Ellen opened its eyes and slowly nodded. Then it touched the ground and made another drawing, this time of a symbol Jack hadn't seen before. It was a circle with a triangle and 3 smaller circles inside. Cree joined in and added a star above the symbol. Then they both looked at Jack. You want me to understand, but I don't, Jack said. You're from somewhere important, right? Ellen gave a short, quiet sound, a sound that almost felt like yes. By noon, another message came. This time, it was not from the old radio. A clean silver drone floated down from the sky and hovered just outside Jack's fence. A robotic voice said, Jack Harper. You are requested at Central Court Facility. Immediate appearance. Transport is waiting. Jack looked at the shed where the aliens were watching quietly. He called out, I have to go again. Don't worry, I'll be back. Vo gave a small wave. Ellen raised one long finger in the air, a kind of salute. Jack got into the silver vehicle, and the door closed softly behind him. The car lifted into the air and flew across the farmland, heading toward the central city. The court building was massive and glowing, made of smooth white stone and silver walls. Inside, the halls were quiet but full of movement, humans and aliens in long coats, talking, walking, reading. Jack was led to a high chamber. It was round, with a tall ceiling and many floating screens. In the middle, Judge Lurajan waited. She wore a deep green robe today, and beside her stood 2 new figures, one human and one alien with wide golden eyes. Jack Harper, the judge said, thank you for returning quickly. Jack nodded. I figured it was important. The golden-eyed alien stepped forward. I am Talvan. I work in interplanetary law. I will speak with you today. All right, Jack said. Let's talk. A screen lit up, showing drone footage. Jack helping the aliens, giving them food and water, offering them blankets. You showed kindness, Talvan said. That is not in question. What we ask now is what you understand about the ones you helped. Jack looked at the screen. They didn't speak much, but they were tired, scared. One of them is just a child. He paused, then continued. They drew pictures. I think they crashed. I think they were separated from their people, maybe even important people. The human officer beside the judge spoke next. Their location was a protected science zone. That area was marked off for biological studies. No species is allowed to live or enter without permission. Jack raised his eyebrow. So, what does that mean? That they broke a rule? Lurajan leaned forward. It means they were not supposed to be there. Or they were supposed to be there under a different reason, Jack crossed his arms. Look, all I know is this: they needed help. I didn't ask them where they came from. I saw they were alive, and I helped. That's it. There was a pause. Then Talvan said, "What if we told you they were not normal travelers, but envoys? Visitors from a diplomatic research team from a hidden planet?" Jack blinked. So, like scientists, important ones? Yes, said the golden-eyed alien. Very important, and also very missing. Until you found them. Jack rubbed his face. That explains why they kept pointing at the stars? And that weird symbol. The one with the triangle inside a circle, Talvan nodded. That is the royal mark of their star society, the judge stood. Jack Harper, your decision to help them may have stopped an interstellar crisis. They were believed lost or captured. Your kindness kept them safe. Jack was silent for a moment. Then he said, "All I did was offer water." Lurajan smiled slightly. Sometimes the smallest gifts carry the biggest meanings. Jack was taken to another room. Not a prison, but a clean, quiet place where he could rest while the officials confirmed the alien's identity. He looked out the window at the sky. He remembered Ellen's quiet nods, Kree's careful stitching, and Vo's laughter with the garden. Pose, they weren't soldiers. They weren't spies. They were just people, different, yes, but people back at the farm. Things were changing too. Ellen activated something from a hidden pocket in their uniform. It was a small silver disc. When placed on the ground, it lit up with soft blue lights. Kree looked toward the sky, and Vo grabbed their hand. The device made a soft hum. A signal was being sent from far away. Someone would hear it. Jack was called again the next morning. This time, not to be questioned, but to be thanked. He was taken to a different hall, full of light and color. New screens were already spreading. The story, lost alien envoys found on human farmers, simple kindness, makes galactic headlines. Jack scratched his head and muttered, "This is getting strange." Inside the hall, Ellen, Kree, and Vo stood proudly in clean robes, with golden edges. They looked taller, now confident, not scared. Jack walked in, and Vo ran to hug him. The judge raised her voice. This human Jack Harper gave aid without asking for reward, status, or safety. We honor him today. A small medal was placed around his neck. It read. Jack Harper stood still as the medal was placed around his neck. The cool silver of it felt strange against his sunburned skin. Lights flashed. Reporters whispered. The alien crowd in the grand hall clapped their hands or waved their arms, or clicked their claws, or whatever counted as applause in their language. Jack had never been so far from home. Never stood in front of so many eyes. He gave a small wave and smiled shyly. "I'm just a farmer," he said quietly, but to them, he was more. After the ceremony, Jack was taken to a quiet garden near the court building. There, he finally got the answers he had been waiting for. Judge Laura John joined him on a stone bench. "You look uncomfortable," she said kindly. Jack chuckled. "I'd rather be back with my hands in the dirt," the judge nodded. "Earth. Soil has its own kind of peace. I respect that." Jack looked at her. "Can you tell me now, who were they? Why were they walking through my field like lost travelers?" Laura John turned her head toward the flowers. "The ones you helped, Ellen, Kree, and Vo, were part of a special delegation from the planet De Luna. Their ship was on a diplomatic science mission meant to study plant life on unmarked moons." "Unmarked?" Jack asked. "Yes, but someone gave them false data. Their ship jumped into the wrong zone X-14, an area used by a private lab doing experimental research. Their ship was shot at automatically by defense drones, thinking they were intruders." Jack's eyes widened. "You're saying their ship was attacked? By mistake?" "Yes," said the judge. "Their ship was badly damaged. It fell apart in orbit. The escape pod landed far from the base. Only the 3 of them survived. For weeks, we searched, believing they were either captured or dead." Jack was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "They told me nothing. Just drew pictures. They were ordered to stay silent if separated. It's a rule of their people to never share sensitive knowledge while outside their world. Even though the child followed that rule." Jack nodded slowly. They kept their secret, but they were still kind. Lurjon looked at him. And so were you? Back at Jack's farm, the sun was bright and the wind soft. The old shed where the aliens had rested now looked very different. Cree and Ellen had worked together to clean it fully, using special tools from their uniforms. They'd polished the walls, repaired the roof, and even planted small glowing flowers outside. Vo was helping too. She carefully placed small round stones in a circle. Each one hummed softly. At the center of the garden was a new object. A silver crystal device standing on a short pole. This was the beacon activated during Jack's last visit to the city. It had sent a message deep into space to the home planet of the three lost travelers. And now, a reply had come. The next morning, a soft rumble echoed through the sky. Jack walked out of his house and looked up. A large ship, round and quiet, slowly lowered above the field. It made no sound, but the air shimmered as it passed. Jack walked toward the shed. Ellen, Cree, and Vo were already outside, standing straight. Their eyes brightened as the ship came closer. The ship gently landed near the water tank. A ramp opened with a soft hiss. Out stepped more aliens, taller ones, wearing long white and silver robes. One of them stepped forward and bowed deeply. Jack stood still. The alien spoke, this time in clear English. We are from the Luna Council. We have come to take our people home. Jack nodded. They've been waiting. The alien turned to Ellen, Cree, and Vo and said something in their own language. Jack couldn't understand the words, but he could feel the emotion. Vo ran forward and hugged the new alien, who hugged her back with care. The tall alien turned to Jack again. Your kindness will not be forgotten. We have heard what you did. Jack scratched the back of his neck. I just gave water. A place to rest. No, said the alien. You gave more. You gave trust when others would fear. You gave safety when others would question. For that, you are now part of our story. Later, when the ship had lifted back into the sky, Jack stood alone in his field, but it didn't feel empty, near the shed. The small circle of stones and glowing flowers still stood. And at the center, a gift had been left behind, a small plaque. Jack walked up to it and read the simple words, written in both English and the Lunan language, to the one who gave without asking. Let peace grow where kindness is planted. Jack smiled and touched the edge of the plaque. I guess I'll water this garden a little extra, he said. That evening, Jack sat on his porch with a cup of tea. He looked at the stars, the same stars that had brought strange visitors to his simple farm. He had no regrets. The news still talked about him. Human farmer helped save interstellar peace, but Jack didn't care much for fame. He just hoped the visitors were safe. And maybe, one day, they'd return. As the wind passed through the trees, Jack closed his eyes and Jack Harper's days returned to their quiet rhythm. The fields still needed watering. The hens still needed feeding. His boots still left soft prints in the dry dirt. But something had changed. It wasn't just the plaque in the garden that made things feel different. It was the air. The way the wind felt warmer now. The way the stars looked brighter at night. Jack couldn't explain it, but deep down, he knew his little farm had become part of something much bigger. He didn't expect anything more. He didn't want reward or attention. But the universe wasn't finished with him yet. One morning, as Jack watered the small glowing plants near the shed, a soft beeping sound came from the silver plaque. Jack turned, surprised. A small light blinked 3 times, then a soft voice came through. Hello, Jack Harper. Jack dropped the hose and stared. The voice continued. This is Vo of the Luna. We are safe. We are home. And we remember you. Jack smiled wide. Vo, you can talk now? Yes, I learned your language. I wanted to speak to you myself. Jack sat down beside the garden. I'm glad you're okay. Vo's voice came again, clear and happy. We are more than okay. We told everyone what you did. We showed them the drawings, the clothes, the stories. They were amazed. Some cried. You gave hope to our people. Jack blinked. Hope? From me? Yes, many of our kind were afraid of humans. They thought humans would be cold, dangerous, but you were warm. You were kind. Now they see differently. Jack chuckled. Well, I just gave you some socks and apples. Vo laughed. It was a soft sound full of joy. That was enough. A few days later, a small delivery ship landed near Jack's barn. It wasn't loud or big, just sleek and silver with smooth blue lights. A human officer stepped out, holding a box. "Mr. Harper?" "This is from the United Interstellar Council." Jack took the box and opened it carefully. Inside were seeds. Dozens of small glowing pods, each one labeled with symbols and names in many languages. A letter inside read, "To Jack Harper, Guardian of Peace. These are gifts from 7 worlds. They wish to grow together under your care. Let the stars bloom." In your soil, Jack felt his chest grow tight. He touched one of the glowing pods, warm in his hand. "Guess I'll need to make a new garden," he whispered. Weeks passed. Jack worked from morning to night, digging new rows, building fences, adding shade covers. The glowing seeds were planted carefully, each in its own space. Some needed dry ground. Others needed water baths. A few even hummed at night. He named each plant after the aliens who sent them. One bright red vine was called Ellen's Star. A floating bubble fruit was named Cree's Hope. And the smallest, sweetest one, blue and round, was Vo's Dream. Children from nearby farms came to see the strange plants. Scientists asked to visit and take notes. Even traders from spaceports brought tools to help Jack care for the alien crops, but Jack didn't turn it into a business. "This garden's not for money," he said. "It's a thank you garden." Then one day, a surprise visitor came. A small ship landed just as the sun was setting. Jack was placing mulch under the Vo's dream tree when he heard soft footsteps. He turned and saw her, now a little taller, wearing a soft robe with stars stitched into the fabric. Her eyes still sparkled, just like before. Jack stood slowly. "Vo?" She smiled wide. "I asked to visit. They said yes." Jack couldn't speak for a moment. Then he laughed and gave her a gentle hug. Vo looked around at the garden. "You planted them all?" "Every single one," Jack said. "Want to see your dream tree?" Vo ran to it and touched the blue fruit gently. "It's beautiful." Jack smiled. "So are you." Vo stayed for several days. She slept in the old shed, now clean and painted soft green. She helped Jack water the plants and even taught him how to speak 2 words in her own language. Teren, meaning friend, and Shalo, meaning always. They sat under the stars one night, drinking warm tea and talking about Earth. Vo pointed to the sky. "One day there will be a place where humans and the Lunans live together." Jack looked up. "Think we'll see it?" "I think we already started it," she said softly, on her last morning. Vo gave Jack a small box. Inside was a tiny silver pin, shaped like a tree with stars in its branches. "This is the mark of the gardeners of peace," she said. "It means you grow more than plants. You grow understanding." Jack held the pin and nodded. "Thank you." Vo stepped onto her ship. As it rose into the sky, she waved from the window. Jack watched until the lights vanished. Then he turned back to the garden and whispered. After Vo's visit, Jack felt a quiet change in his farm and in himself. The stars seemed closer. The wind whispered new stories. The plants in his garden glowed softly every night, lighting his path like tiny lanterns. Jack still rose with the sun. He still worked hard on the land. But now he knew he was not alone. One morning, as Jack fixed the fence near the glowing plants, he heard the sound of engines. Not loud, but steady and growing closer. He looked up and saw a small group of ships landing near the edge of his farm. They were not big warships, but peaceful ships with smooth curves and soft colors. Jack's heart beat faster. The doors opened, and out stepped a group of aliens. Not the blue-skinned ones from before, but others, some tall, some short, some with shiny scales, some with many eyes. They looked curious but calm. Jack walked toward them, hands open. "Welcome to my farm." The tallest of the group stepped forward. "We heard about you, Jack Harper, about your kindness. We want to learn." "From you," Jack smiled. "Then you're welcome here." Over the next weeks, the farm became a meeting place. The aliens came with stories of their own worlds, with seeds and tools, with songs and dances. Jack showed them how to plant the glowing seeds, how to care for Earth's soil, and how to wait patiently for the rain dot in return. The aliens taught Jack and nearby farmers new ways to grow food faster, protect crops from pests, and save water in the dry seasons. One afternoon, Jack sat with Ellen and Cree under the shade of a tall tree from the Luna. Vo was nearby helping. Children from the nearby farms play with small plants that changed colors when touched. Jack looked around and said, "I never thought a simple farm could become a place like this." Ellen smiled. "You built more than a farm, Jack. You built a home." As the seasons passed, Jack's farm became known across many worlds. It was the first place where humans and aliens worked side by side, sharing knowledge and friendship. Scientists came to study the glowing plants. Traders came to exchange goods and stories. Children came to learn languages and dances. Jack's quiet life was full of new voices and laughter. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Jack stood by the water tank. The sky was painted with pink and orange. He looked up and saw a small ship rising slowly into space. Inside, Vo smiled and waved back at him. Then the ship disappeared among the stars. Jack took a deep breath. He whispered, "You're always welcome here." He turned back to the glowing garden and began to water the plants under the soft light of the moon. Years later, Jack sat in his old chair on the porch, now surrounded by a large, thriving garden full of strange, glowing plants from many worlds. A young girl, part human and part alien, came running up to him. "Grandfather Jack, come see the new plant?" Jack smiled warmly. "I'm coming, Vo." He stood, steady but proud. The garden was no longer just, it was theirs. A place of peace, hope, and friendship. And it all started with one simple act. A glass